Are we ready financially? Are we ready logistically? Are we ready with the investments and the long-term goals, not only short-sighted goals? For the session, I would like to call the esteemed speakers on stage. Sanjeev Navangul, MD and CEO, Bharat Serum and Vaccines Limited, BSV. Can we have the applause going as the speakers take the stage? Thank you so much. Jaswinder Sodhi, Head of Marketing, Digital and Customer Propositions, International Wealth and Premier Banking, HSBC India. Can we have Mr. Sodhi on stage, please? Thank you so much, sir, for gracing the occasion. Anil Singh, Managing Director, Procam International. He has been a friend of Revsportz for long. Can we have Mr. Anil Singh on stage, please? And Professor Vijay Pereira, Director, KH Business School, Vijay Bhumi University. Can we have a huge round of applause for all our speakers? And of course, not to forget, his contribution to Indian sports and to Trailblazers Conclave since its inception, Adil Sumariwala, Vice President, World Athletics. May I have you on stage, please, sir, for this session. A huge round of applause for Mr. Adil Sumariwala. And to moderate this session, may I invite Shormishta Guptu, co-founder Revsportz, on stage, please. Shormishta is already ready. She's beaming with anticipation. She's ready with her homework. And so are we. Are we ready for 2036, financially, logistically? Corporate India and sport, a very important session with all the corporate giants of India currently towards making India a sporting power with an eye on 2036. Shormishtadi, as the speakers take their seats, over to you for the session and all the best.
All right, so corporate India and sport, and here with me I have a very, very distinguished panel of corporate leaders, and a very senior administrator, and who are path breakers and trailblazers in their own right. We have a very senior academic and analyst. So this is a very, very distinguished panel, and all of them have in their own different ways connected the grids of the corporate world and sports. So today we are going to talk on this panel about, you know, what their experience of this has been and how we look forward to 2036. Can India actually think of bidding for an Olympics to be hosted in India in 2036? So let me start with Adil. Adil, you have very definitive views on corporate social responsibility and investment in sport. Would you like to outline your views for our audience?
So, the way I'm going to say is, I'm not splitting the two, the corporate social responsibility and the investment in sport. I'm going to keep it as one. So, as I have said before, time and again, I think corporate India has failed sport. When I say sport, I don't mean cricket. What I mean is sport as a whole. What is the amount of money that corporate India, except for Tata's and a few others, what is the sort of money that they are investing in sport? Secondly, whatever little a lot of them are investing is with the top athletes. Everybody wants a picture with a Manu Bhaker. Everybody wants to sponsor a Neeraj Chopra. They don't need the money. They've made enough money. How many people are doing anything at grassroots? And I'm going to give you figures which I've given before from this stage. The total budget, sports budget this year, 2,505 crores. That's the sports budget. If you take corporate social responsibility money, 2% of the top 10, only top 10, I don't want 2%. You give me 0.5%. That works out to 4,000 crores. If they put only 0.5%, the top 10, it is 4,000 crores. So everybody wants government to do everything. I think government needs to put up infrastructure across into districts, at district level, state level, etc. Creating teams for India, they're putting in enough money. The government is putting in money, and literally, I'm saying that putting in money to the point of spoiling our athletes. Athletes are sitting on your head, demanding all sorts of ridiculous things, and which we are giving. So, Gopi is smiling. I know why he's smiling. We've had this conversation in meetings. But I think how many corporates are doing anything at grassroots? They're saying they're doing things. Now again, if they're going to work in a silo, it's not going to work. Whatever money, even some of the corporates that are putting in want to do it by themselves. You can't do it by yourself. It has to be a team effort. We will produce. No, you can't produce. Because there is a federation, there are coaches, there are athletes. They all have to work together. There's the Sports Authority of India. There is a federation. There is an Indian Olympic Association. There are international federations. So, as I said, my view is corporate India has failed sport.
All right, very instructive words. Adil Sumariwala, very distinguished administrator who has seen, every end of the spectrum in his life as an administrator. But I have somebody here seated at that end who has actually been a supporter of the Athletics Federation of India. So, Jaswinder, what would you like to add to what Adil has said? Adil has expressed disappointment with the level of, at the present level of existing, corporate investment. He expects there to be more. But you have been a supporter of the Olympics. I mean, I saw that, those wonderful visuals of the send-off that you gave to the Olympic athletes. So tell us, what would your response be to him?
No, I think partly Adil is right, because that's the behavior we are seeing overall. If we look at the overall investments which flow into corporate, into sports, and especially at the grassroots level, because that's where the intent is very clear. You are here to support the sport growing. You are here to support the infrastructure building. You are here to support people to come up the curve, right? Not when they become famous, because that's when you're coming to brand yourself with them. I think that's a difference. That's a difference of intent. That's a difference of how you want to support, right? So I think it makes a big difference if you commit yourself for building that infrastructure. I think one area where India has consistently failed is in not having adequate facilities, world-class infrastructure, and that's where I think if we give more such opportunities and world-class infrastructure to our athletes, I think they will do phenomenally well. HSBC has been a consistent supporter for sports, not only in India but across the world, at grassroots level as well. And whichever sports we choose to support, I think we go and invest in the ecosystem to grow the sport rather than support an individual. So I think that's been the philosophy. We need to be honest about where we want to put money, how we want to support. I think if we have our intents clear, that will make a whole lot of difference.
Thank you, Jaswinder. I'll ask Vijay. Vijay Pereira is, a senior academic and administrator. He's written, spoken on sport and business. Vijay, you were in, very close to Paris, based in France during the years leading up to the Olympic Games, and then, of course, during the Paris Olympics. And You have seen it all, you know, how the corporate world in France came together during the Olympics. Tell us a little bit about that, and then perhaps you could elaborate what you feel of that is missing in India. For instance, the whole Paris Olympics motto of inclusivity, gender parity, you know, reaching out to, you know, other groups who are not, you know, part of the mainstream. Tell us about that corporate engagement.
Yeah, thanks, Sarmista. Well, just being a little bit academic here, we take a step back and look at historically what are the countries that have done well in sport. And there is a strong correlation to its economy, which means business. You know, look at Europe where it all started, whether it's Greece or the Romans, and then of course we look modern day America, and then we have the Asian examples of Japan and Korea. And it's come of age, China and India. I'm not a big fan to compare the two countries, but really a 2016 study showed that for every 315 billion US dollars that add to the GDP, it equates to 1 gold medal, okay? Which means that if India are going for a 5 trillion economy in the near future, what and how much, which I strongly support Adil here, are the corporates doing for that? Because they're going to get, everyone is going on money. How much of that is then going to get invested? And so coming back to your question, is that the developed countries, and taking France as an example, have already done it. Yeah, they are at the stage where they give back to sport and they take sport seriously. The investment of France versus India in terms of sport is huge. And that's why you will see the medals that are going to be making the difference. Because we're talking about how a human being gets developed to play sport from one generation to the next. So it's not an overnight aspect where suddenly you have athletes which we celebrate here. It takes time. It takes a whole generation and the next to develop there. So, you know, so we're going back to saying India 2036, 5 trillion, 6 trillion, 20 trillion economy, how much of that is being pumped into sport or health? I link health. And I link another thing which I'm in, education. Education, health, sport, better society, greater medals. And again, a stronger, healthier society goes back and pumps in greater money into the economy. So it's a circle, a positive circle. And so the richer the country, the more developed the country, the more investment, and it's India's time now.
It is India's time now, and I see my panelists are all giving me very wonderful cues to the questions I originally meant to ask. So I'm going to pick up on Vijay's point about sport, health, education, and I'm going to come to Sanjeev here. Sanjeev, we have done panels together, we have done conclaves together. You are somebody who has been in the corporate world and at the forefront of promoting women's health, whether it's to talk openly about periods, period pain, menstruation, lactation. You are someone who has, through your initiatives, supported that. Now, tell me, Sanjeev, we have done conclaves together. We have put, we have spoken to athletes, we have spoken to doctors. When you bring an athlete, say like an Anju Bobby George, and we have, done something with Anju before, and Anju will be here at the conclave. When you take an athlete like an Anju Bobby George or a Mary Kom or anyone who speaks about childbirth, or who speaks about, menopause or something like that, what does it bring to the corporate grid?
Good evening, everyone. Adil, though, has criticized corporate world, has passed me the mic, so thank you. But I can tell you one thing, corporate world, you say, you accuse of failing sports, but I can tell you corporate world is full of failed sportsmen and sportswomen, for sure. Failed sportsmen and sportswomen, for sure. Corporate world is full of them. So each one of them wanted to be some celebrity and then ended up in corporate world. So coming back to the question, I think, look, we are probably India's and Asia's leading women's health company. And when we say that, we should not be just saying that we produce medicines or treatments for solving problems for women's health. We have to take responsibility for women's health in this country, especially in a country, and I'll give you some stat and then that can reflect on everything, is that every 1 out of 2 men get treated in this country and go to the doctor or go to some health facility. Every 1 out of 5 women, every 1 out of 5 women are able to do that. So 20% treatment rate in women and 50% treatment rate in men. So let's start there. Yeah? So when we say and take pride, and really we should take pride as a premier women's health company in the world, our responsibility towards women's health has to be complete. We cannot say that we will only support this or support that. So therefore, when you ask that question, it was important for us to ensure that we support all parts of women's health. Yeah. Incidentally, that we, I think, end up having a very, very targeted treatments from menarche to menopause. That's where I think we have maximum amount of so we therefore started focusing on it and realized the amount of pain women athletes have. Whether it is the mental agony of going through a lot of things from starting from menstruation point when they are early athletes. Then we started looking at women athletes who are starting to grow up and start to do well. Then they have other challenges. There are home pressures. We saw them, obviously, you know, when they have child, they're very difficult to come back. Forget coming back to sport. Very difficult for them to come back to corporate. Imagine that they are unable to come back to the corporate world. So coming back to sport must be even more difficult. So we decided to focus on some of these things, talk about it openly, involve athletes, ensure that they speak to other athletes, ensure they speak to the general audience, and ensure that this process is taken care by helping everyone. And that's probably one of the biggest areas we will continue to work on, that how do you get women in sports more support, because their challenges sometimes are slightly higher than the men sportsmen. Now, we don't want to bring in the gender bias here, but somebody has to obviously focus on a gender that needs more help, at least at this stage in the country. And therefore, our ability to support them as much as we can is important. And demonstrate in many different ways. Like you mentioned about lactation, childbirth. We also, you know, I remember talking to Abhinav Bindra and telling him that, Abhinav, look, you want support for your foundation. I'm not ready to give just support like that. Create a program which will support women athletes from teenage, only teenagers. So that means early stage, as Adil you mentioned. So they get support at an early stage. So then he designed a program, sports for her, and then we said, okay, as much money you need, I'm ready to support you, but only if you take those early stage athletes. And it should be only women. So demonstrate it by creating programs which will help them. I spoke to Viren also about what to do in UGQ with what support we can give him. Unfortunately for me, Viren's class teacher is my wife, so she scolded me in supporting Viren. But the important thing was to tell Viren that, look, if you want our support, then we will certainly want athletes at a particular age group, women athletes to support. We want to promote healthy people, ultimately, healthy women, healthy people. Healthy nation is a wealthy nation. A wealthy nation need not be a healthy nation, and we see the obesity in US and understand that much better. So once you create a healthy nation, you will create better sportsmen. I think let's focus on that, and especially on women's sports is an area where we want to focus on.
Please, please.
I think this is one area we've really neglected, women in sports. And I must say that HSBC has supported our women.
Yeah.
So we need more people to do this. At World Athletics, where I'm an executive board member, we have gender equal parity. So in the commission, in the council, in everything is 50-50. Prize money same for men and women. So I think it's time that we, of course, there are cultural issues, etc., in India. We have to come around it or over it, but I think we have to move in that direction.
Thank you. So we have a debate, we have discussion, and we have a very, very, very distinguished panel here. So glad to have moderated this panel, and we must end here.